He thought I was going to keep fixing his life. I didn't. The last time I gave my brother money, it wasn't even a conversation. My mom called and said, he's short on rent again. I said, how much? She told me. I sent it. That was it. No thank you from him, no follow up, no plan for the next month, just handled. It stayed like that for a long time. Not just rent, car trouble, bills, stuff around the house. If something needed to be figured out, it came to me. The part that bothered me wasn't helping. It was how normal it felt to everybody else, like it was my role. Like my brother lives like nothing sticks to him. If something goes left, he shrugs it off and somebody will catch it. And most of the time, that somebody was me. My mom don't see it like that. To her, I'm the responsible one. He's still figuring it out. She says it like it's just personality, like it's not a pattern. The day it actually broke wasn't dramatic. He was behind on rent again, deadline coming up. Same situation. My mom called, same tone, but this time I didn't ask how much. I said, I'm not doing that this time. Silence. Then she said, what do you mean? I said, I mean I'm not paying his rent. She didn't get mad right away. She tried to reason it out and said, he just needs a little help. Like this was new. I said, he always needs help. She said, that's your brother. I said, I know. Then she said it. You're really going to let him struggle like that? That's the part that sat wrong. Not what she asked, how she asked it. Like I had control over whether he struggled or not. Like it was my responsibility to stop it. So I asked her something. When does he deal with his own life? She didn't answer that. She said, you're being difficult. That night, my brother called me himself. The first time in a long time he came directly to me. He said, I heard you not trying to help me out. I said, I've been helping you. He said, it's not like that. Same energy, same tone, like I was making it bigger than it was. Then he said something that locked it in. You always take care of it. Stop acting like it's some huge sacrifice or some shit. That was the moment everything got real clear. I said, that's the problem. It's only not a sacrifice to you. And I hung up. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. About 3 days later, my mom called again. Different tone this time. Short, tight. She said, he got a notice on his door. I said, okay. She paused, like she was waiting for me to say something else. I didn't. She said, so you just gonna let him get put out? I said, I didn't put him there. That's when she got quiet. She said, I don't understand why you're acting like this. And I said, I'm not acting like nothing. Another pause. Then she said something that told me exactly where her head was at. She said, you know he not built like you. There she go. Again, I said, that don't mean I gotta carry him. She said, so you just gonna watch him fail? I said, no, I'm gonna let him live. She didn't like that. Hung up not long after. That weekend, I pulled up to her house. Because at that point, I needed to see it in person. My brother was there, on the couch, phone in his hand like nothing was going on, like eviction notices don't exist. He looked up at me and said, you serious? I said, about what? He said, you really not helping me. I said, I've been helping you. He said, not right now. I said, that part right there, my help done turned into obligation to you. That's the problem. He sat up a little then said, so you just gonna switch up? I said, no, I'm just done. My mom stepped in before he could say anything else. Said, we not about to do this. That same line, same energy. I looked at her and said, that's the problem. We never do this. She didn't respond. Just looked at me like I was being disrespectful. I said, every time something happens, we skip past it. Every time he mess up, somebody else fixes it. And every time I say something, I'm the one doing too much. My brother laughed, actually laughed, said, you always been like this. And I said, like what? He said, acting like you better than people. That was new. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe he just finally said it out loud. I said, you think I'm better than you? He said, I think you think that. That's when I knew this wasn't about money. This was about how he saw me. I said, "You don't think it's a problem that every time something go wrong, you expect me to fix it?" He said, "That's what you do. Not that's what you did. That's what you do." Like it was permanent, like it was assigned. I nodded, said, "Okay." That's when my mom tried to smooth it over again. Said, "We're not about to sit here and tear each other down." I said, "Nobody tearing nobody down. I'm just not picking him up this time." She said, "You acting like he ain't family." I said, "And y'all acting like I'm not family, like I'm an ATM, like that's just what I do." Then I emptied the clip on his ass. "You're such a bum, a burden, a bill that I hate to see coming every damn time. You never have to figure anything out for yourself. You're not even existing in the real world. You're still letting mom nurse your dumb ass. A grown-ass man living with his mama vows he can't for the life of himself figure out how to prioritize a roof over his head over having the nicest shit. Just a nice-looking bum that can dress. And mom, you're so busy coddling him that you don't see he ain't even a man. He can't even keep a place to live. He got your place filled to the brim with thousands of dollars worth of designer shit and no 401k. You raised a grown man with no savings and no place to live, but I'm the difficult one? You proud of him?" Then I laughed, loudly, hysterically. That landed. Nobody said anything after that. They just looked at me like I slapped them both. Maybe I had. And after that, I stopped pulling up, for real. Repairs didn't get done right away. Bills didn't get covered quietly. Problems didn't disappear. They sat. My brother ended up moving back into my mom's house. Didn't say that directly, but I heard, through people. About 2 months in, my mom tried again. Called me talking about, "We need to sit down." I asked her, "For what?" She said, "To fix this." So I said, "If we sit down, is anything going to be different?" Silence. That told me everything. So I said, "I'm good." And that was the last real conversation I had with my mom. She called a few times, left messages, nothing long, nothing heavy, just call me back when you can. I didn't. Life got quieter after that. Like I didn't have to brace myself for something every time my phone rang. I didn't plan to see them again. Not him, not my mom. I was just stopping to grab something quick. One of those places you don't even think about. You go in, get what you need, and leave. I had my order in, was standing off to the side waiting for it. Not on my phone, not doing nothing, just waiting. And that's when I heard my name. I turned, and there they were, both of them, just standing there like they had been waiting on their order too. For a second, I just looked at them because it didn't feel real. My mom spoke first, said, "We didn't know you'd be here." I said, "I didn't know y'all would either." My brother finally stepped forward a little. He said, "You been good?" I said, "I'm good." And that could have been it. That could have been the whole interaction, but it wasn't. He stayed there. And then he said, "I didn't think it was like that." I didn't ask him what he meant. I already knew. He said, "I thought once you stopped, it would just adjust." I let him talk. He said, "It didn't." My mom didn't interrupt him this time, didn't soften it, didn't jump in to explain. And he said, "Stuff started piling up." Then he laughed a little, but it wasn't funny. He said, "It's different when you gotta actually handle it." That part landed because now he wasn't talking around it. Like he was in it. He said, "I thought you was just doing too much." I nodded again. He said, "I didn't think it was that much on you." I said, "That's the point." Nobody rushed to fix that moment. And they called my number. My order was ready. I stepped forward, grabbed it, and turned back to them. My brother said my name, not loud, just enough. I looked at him. He said, "It ain't been the same." And for a second, that almost meant something. But then I realized what he was really saying. Not that he missed me, that he missed what I did. So I nodded. And I said, "It wasn't supposed to be." Then I left. Because by the time people understand what you were carrying, you've already put it down. I had made it halfway to the door when I heard my mom call my name. I stood there for a second. Then I turned around. They were both still standing where I left them, but this time my mom stepped forward and she said, "Can we sit for a minute?" I looked around. There was a small table off to the side. We sat down, all three of us. For a second, nobody said anything. Then my mom did something I wasn't expecting. She didn't start with me. She started with him. She said, "You need to say it right." He looked at her, then at me, like he didn't know where to start. Then he said, "I was wrong." I nodded, because that's what it was. And then my mom spoke again, and she said, "And I let it go on." That part hit different. I looked at her. She said, "I kept telling myself it wasn't that big, that it would work itself out." She paused and then said, and I didn't want to make it something it didn't have to be. There it was, not protecting me, not even protecting him, and protecting how it looked. I said, "Yeah," because that's exactly what it felt like. She nodded, like she knew that was the part that mattered. Then she said something else. She said, "I didn't think you would step all the way back like that." I let that sit for a second. Then I said, "That's because you thought I was just talking." She didn't argue that. She said, "I thought you would calm down." I nodded, because that's what they always thought, that I'd say what I had to say and then come back and fix it. My brother leaned forward and he said, "I thought it was just going to blow over." I said, "It always did before." That's when it got quiet again. My mom looked at me and said, "We didn't understand how much you were carrying." I said, "That's because I didn't complain about it." She nodded. Then she said, "And when you finally did say something, we made it about how you said it." That part, that was the closest she got to saying she understood. I didn't soften. I said, "Yeah," because that's exactly what they did. My mom said, "We can do better." I shook my head, not aggressive, just clear. I said, "You might," and left it there, because that's their work, not mine. Nobody chased me this time, and nobody tried to stretch the moment into something bigger. We all knew what it was, understanding, just late, and not enough to put things back the way they were. So yeah, maybe I could have stayed in it longer, kept explaining, kept trying, but the way I see it, they heard me. They just didn't listen until it cost them something. And I'm not sorry about what it took for them to finally understand.